We're back at the Christian Resources exhibition here at the Sandown Racecourse, and with me now is Peter Smith, who's the Spuc Secretary. Spuc, of course, being the Society for the Protection of Unborn Children. Peter, lovely to have you. You described yourself as a troublemaker before.
I am.
But,
I'm good at it.
You've been a long time working with the Society for Protection of the Unborn Children.
Yeah, I've been 16 years full-time, but I got involved when I was at Bible College in 1987.
Okay, the last time I saw you, actually, you were on the TV. You were on Revelation TV, and it was an evening that you did with Howard, and you were giving him a presentation, I seem to remember.
Yes, it's we've got a little picture of him here, receiving an award from Jan Bell, who's chairman of Spuc Evangelicals. And we gave Howard the award because he's a brave man and got into trouble once for showing a pro-life video that I was in, and his attitude was, well, if they shut me down, I'll be a happy man having shown that program. And I thought, what a wonderful, brave man Howard is. That's why we gave him the award. He deserved it.
Okay. Now, one of your roles, Peter, is to represent the Society for the Protection of the Unborn Child at the United Nations. I guess many of our viewers don't even know that there's any involvement with the United Nations. Tell us about that.
Well, the UN has had non-governmental organisations involved with it from its start. And since the early 1990s, there's been a huge push at the UN to socially re-engineer the world in this awful, politically correct, liberal, left-wing sort of way, starting in the Cairo conference in '94. I got involved in January '95, just immediately after that, and have been at around 6 UN meetings every year since then, with lots of other pro-life and pro-family groups from around the world.
So what kind of things do you talk about?
Well, at different meetings, they have a document which is like a policy, broad policy document that is supposedly accepted by consensus. Everyone agrees. Basically what it means is as soon as everyone's too scared to speak up, they say it's consensus. But these documents, even though they're not binding, are used by donor countries and also UN agencies to pressure countries into changing their laws and practices as a condition of receiving aid and assistance. So they're important things. And many countries are pressured by UN agencies, especially compliance committees, to legalise abortion and things like that.
Okay. People have varying views about the United Nations, and some of them maybe we can't say on a TV programme. Do you actually think what you do achieves anything?
Yes. If we aren't there, the documents are always worse. If we are there, they're not quite so bad. We have an ability to hold back a small amount of evil. Now, when President Bush was US President, he was pro-life, and the United States was with us. And during those 8 years, the pro-abortionists gained nothing at the United Nations. So, depending on who the US President is probably the largest factor. But I and my American colleagues work very closely with the American ambassadors and diplomats during his presidency, and we ensured that they did the right thing according to President Bush's pro-life position. And now with President Obama it's quite different. He's not pushing the same thing.
Peter, if we come back to this country, and you faithfully for so many years have been labouring away as Spuc Secretary for the evangelical side of it, do you feel you're making any progress in getting your message across?
Well, we still exist. And just simply the fact that we still exist is a success. And we still have people who are willing to fund us and fund me to go and preach in churches, to go to the United Nations. I go to the European Parliament sometimes as well. And we have some effect. Now, people say to me, well, will you ever be successful? And I say, well, look at the people who have children. The pro-abortionist, radical left-wingers have very few children. The evangelicals and the Catholics and the Mormons and the Muslims have a lot of children. So eventually the pro-lifers will win. It's just a matter of time. But there's no future in a pro-abortion position because you're killing your future. It's an insane, suicidal philosophy.
Does occasionally research comes out which you think, yes, if only that had been available previously, it would have just helped our cause? What's happening in there?
I don't think there's any silver bullet. People have seen ultrasound scans of their babies before they're born. People know there's a human being there. They want to pretend it's really not human or it's really not a person or not something. But most people, how can I put it? Abortion is a selfish thing. It's putting self before someone else, before your child. And that kind of selfishness doesn't have a future because you die out. So eventually, I believe this country will become pro-life. But it'll take time. With the current government, I don't envisage any positive changes, same as the previous one. But I honestly believe that if we keep going the way we are, we will face financial collapse, or there will be very serious problems with a country with below replacement level fertility. We have more and more people ageing, more and more expensive to keep them going. You have less and less children being born, more being aborted, all these problems. How can a smaller and smaller number of people look after these increasingly large number of old people? There are going to be some serious consequences of our social policy of the last 40 or so years. You can't do these things without consequences.
Peter, in the work that you're doing, you must have many, many stories of individuals who've been thinking about an abortion and then, having been talked to and shared information, they've changed their mind and an abortion hasn't happened and a baby has come. Can you share one with us?
Well, there's one that I particularly remember. It wasn't actually abortion, but I spoke in a church in Paisley many years ago, and I was at and as this couple came up afterwards, and they couldn't have children. They had multiple miscarriages, and they were just in tears, just thinking about the destruction of children like this. And they so wanted a child. And they had a healing service for this couple, and they prayed for them, and had another healing service some weeks later. And about 4 or 5 years later, I was at a Christian Resource exhibition in Glasgow, and someone came to me and said, "Remember when you spoke in the Paisley church?" I says, "Yeah." "Do you remember that couple? They now have 2 children." And I thought, isn't that amazing that God was so gracious? But the best story I remember, true story, is Sri Lanka. Terrible, sad country. Awful civil war that's been going on for decades. Terrible, corrupt sort of country. I went there 3 times. The second time, I met the First Lady of Sri Lanka. And she's very pro-life, Roman Catholic. And just after that visit, the police raided every illegal abortion clinic in Sri Lanka and shut them down. It was absolutely incredible. Now, how much I influenced that, I don't know, and I don't care. It was just that this amazing thing happened, and I thought, we should never be tricked by Satan into thinking you can't do anything or you can't achieve anything. Because ultimately, these really serious things are in God's hands. God will open the doors. He will change people's hearts. The scriptures talk about him holding the nations in the palm of his hand. Now, we can give people the information and different stuff, but ultimately, what happens in here is whether God changes their minds. And we just have to do our little bit. See, people ask me, well, what successes have you had? I can't measure them because neither can anyone else doing any sort of Christian work. You don't know who you've influenced or affected. Now, I've been on our little stand over there today, and you wouldn't believe how many people have come and says, "I've seen you on television." Hallelujah. And I remember what you said, and I go, "Oh, hallelujah."
Yeah.
And you know, you just don't know who will be listening or whose heart God will touch.
Well, Peter, you've got a book that you want to offer to viewers. Tell us about it, and how they get a copy of it.
Well, George Verwer, who's the man who founded Operation Mobilisation, amazing character, he's got very pro-life recently, and he's pals with Randy Alcorn, and he's conned Randy Alcorn into giving him thousands of these books. And George gives them away on his ships everywhere, you see, and he's given us any number we can give away. And if you want to get a copy of that, you can email me at petercsmith@hotmail.com.
Okay,
and I'll be happy to send you a free copy.
All right, so that was Peter C. Smith at hotmail.com. And if you didn't get that, then if you contact us at the Revelation TV office, we'll put you in touch with Peter. And there's no ties attached to it, it's free of charge.
Zero. No, I'm not interested in harassing people once I get their email address or mailing address. The same with this. If you want to get our prayer letter, we've got a nice picture of Howard in here getting that award. Same thing with this. If you want to get this, same email address, and we can send it to you. We don't use it as a fundraiser, it's just for people to pray, because it's a spiritual battleground. Satan doesn't want a lot of people. God does. And he wants a lot of people in heaven. But you can't get to heaven until you get born first and then born again.
Peter, it's a joy to talk to you. Thank you so much. And may the Lord continue to bless your work in the society for the protection of the unborn children.